Do you have an old worn out rack in your Can-Am Maverick X3? Well, SuperATV's got the solution with our Rackboss 2.0 rack, and today we're going to show you how to get it installed. What's up everybody? I'm Braden Adams. Welcome to my garage. Today we're going to be showing you how to install SuperATV's Rackboss 2.0 Rack and Pinion on this Can-Am Maverick X3. Here's the tools, so let's get right to it. First thing you're going to do is go ahead and get the machine up in the air, remove the front wheels and tires, then disconnect your tire rod. Go ahead and remove the two bolts securing the rack and pinion to the machine. On the passenger side, it'll be an 18mm bolt and an 18mm nut. Now move it on to the driver's side, go ahead and disconnect the tie rod in. So now we're gonna come right here to the firewall. You're gonna find a rubber boot. You'll have a zip tie around it. Get it out of the way. And then this boot, you just kind of roll it back where you can get a hold of the hardware. Just go ahead and remove the bolt. And then what I like to do to make things easier whenever you're slipping the shafts off of the rack and pinion, just want to take a flathead screwdriver or a chisel and just tap it right in here to split the yoke apart to make it that much easier to come off the splines. Perfect. So now we're going to take an 18mm wrench, stick it on our hardware out here on the front of the rack body. And then I'm going to go inside with a long extension and an impact and remove the nuts. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the rack. So the A-arms that we have on our machine, the brake line clip was right in line with where the bolt needed to go. So we threw a ratchet strap on the shock and just compressed the suspension a little bit. We had limit straps on, or we would have just removed the shock bolt. So if you're dealing with this, you have the same issue, you have the same hiccup there, all you need to do is remove your shock bolt, travel the suspension up a little bit, and then run the bolt out of the rack and pinion. But now that we have the hardware out, what we're gonna do, go ahead and slide the rack out the driver's side. There we go. There she be. All right, now we've got our new Rackboss 2.0 Rack and Pinion. We're gonna get her slid in place. Once again, it's definitely nice to have somebody to help you. Here is the most imperative part of the install. You wanna make sure that your steering wheel is straight when you attach the steering shaft to the rack and pinion. Before we do that though, you wanna make sure that you get your bolts in the rack. That way you can slide it into the frame. There we go. As you seen when we were removing the old rack, we had a little bit of a hiccup there to where we had to kind of finagle the rack around and strap the A-arm up a little bit. So make sure you get all your bolts in, and then as you slide the bolts up to the frame, line up the steering shaft. Now that we have it hooked up, we just want to make sure that our steering wheel is still perfectly straight, which it is. We're good to go in that aspect. I'm gonna go ahead and get my bolt reinstalled. All right, so once you've got the rack installed, you've got some hardware started on the driver's side, you need to come over here to the passenger side. You need to make sure that you have this machined block installed on the back side of the rack and pinion before you tighten anything up. And we're just gonna grab the factory saddle, the factory bolts, grab the factory nuts, and get them on. Now you're just gonna go through and fully tighten all the hardware securing the rack to the machine, as well as put the steering shaft pinch bolt in and fully tighten it. Now you're gonna grab your tie rod and go ahead and thread it on to the inner ball and socket. These are left and right hand thread, so you wanna make sure that the side that does not have the spot to put a wrench on it is going towards the inside. So what I'm doing is just running this thread about 3/4 of the way in. You may have to take a wrench and hold the inner ball and socket to keep it from spinning as you're doing this. Then we're gonna grab our outer tie rod end, and we're just gonna thread it in too. This is gonna be left hand thread. Then what we're gonna try to do is make sure that our steering wheel's straight. We know our rack's gonna be straight if the steering wheel's straight. Try to get the rotors as straight as we can get them, and then we're gonna line the tie rods up in the knuckle. So obviously this isn't how you would set the toe, but it does make it a little bit easier to set the toe if you get everything as straight as possible while it's in the air. Now we're gonna grab our misalignment spacers. These are gonna drop in the heims, or in the heim just like this, top and bottom. And then we're just gonna slide this into the knuckle. And again, you just wanna try to make sure this rotor is as straight as you can get it, and you wanna make sure that your steering wheel is perfectly straight. So we're gonna go ahead and grab a washer, slide it on our bolt, drop our bolt in, put a washer on the bottom, and then our nylock nut. You can go ahead and fully tighten that and install the cotter key. And then we're gonna go to the opposite side, do the same exact thing, set this thing on the ground and set the toe. All right, so once you've got your rack and pinion installed, everything's fully tightened, the tie rods are on, you're gonna wanna sit your machine on the ground, roll the suspension out, so just ride the machine back and forth in your shop a few times. Then you're gonna take a measurement from the center line of the tire to the center line of the tire on the opposite side. You wanna make sure that you get the measurement as close as you possibly can on the front side of the tires, as well as the back side of the tires. If you need to see us show you how to install toe, we have multiple videos on YouTube, you can check that out. Once you have the toe set, everything's tightened down. That's all there is to it to install SuperATV's Rackboss 2.0 Rack and Pinion on this Can-Am Maverick X3. Be sure to check the description below to pick yours up today, and while you're there, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.